Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to One Take Live. I am Monica May, and this is Women's History Month, and we're going to tackle some history. We're going to tackle health care for women. We're going to tackle relationships and a whole lot more. We're going to pack a lot into this month of March. My guest this evening is a woman who actually my pastor introduced me to. Our passion for working with women and girls is so similar. I began about 8 years ago on Women's National HIV Awareness Day for Mothers and Daughters, just to really start a conversation about life, about love, even about sex too, between mothers and daughters. And I found it appropriate to start it on Women's Awareness, or just the Mother-Daughter HIV Awareness Day. And I think that it's appropriate to introduce you to, and many of you already know her, Dr. Andrea Dunn. In this community, she is our go-to in terms of everything you want to know about HIV affecting women and girls. She is a board certified pediatric, I'm going to say pediatric pharmacy specialist. She works at one of the hospitals here. And it was because of the influx of young people being infected by HIV that she began to say, wait a minute, there's something we can do with this. So Dr. Dunn, let's talk about all of the things that you have done with your organization. Let's Bee HIVE, let's be HIV educated. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great this evening. Thank you so much, Monica, for having me. This is amazing, and I absolutely love your platform. You're one of our biggest supporters, and I could not be more happy that Bishop-elect connected us, and we never looked back, hit the ground running, and kept moving.
And both of us have grown in our own ways. And what I love is the communal support that we have for each other and for
Mhm.
our community. So when we talk about women and girls in terms of HIV education, that's a hard thing to tackle, but you have done it. You did it. You started something during COVID called Stinging Stigma. You got pastors involved. You got the community on fire. Let's talk about that Stinging Stigma.
Absolutely. Yes. Singing Stigma was an amazing program. It was actually the first time we did an anonymous support group for people who are living with HIV. So it was like two parts. One for people who are living with HIV, and then another for education for the general public. And the anonymous support group worked out very well. I think it was a lot of distractions with COVID, but we did still reach a significant number of women. And we were able to help them to be able to connect even through an anonymous platform outside of social media where they felt more comfortable. And through our Sting and Stigma program, we also had for our general public section opportunity where we would educate pastors and faith leaders. And that one did phenomenal. We had an opportunity to educate over 20 pastors. I think the total was actually 26 faith leaders who are active members in their church, who either were clergymen, pastors, or either in a faith leader role, where they were educated about HIV, anti-stigma messaging, and just what they can do in the community to actually help with HIV, and understanding how it's affecting our community and what we can do collectively as a whole to incorporate HIV education in the faith-based settings. And it was very well received, and I'm so excited about the opportunities to come with our Sting and Stigma program, and looking forward to it continuing to grow.
When we talk about getting the clergy involved, let's talk about the importance of that, because our messaging in the Black household, a lot of it comes from that pulpit. How was it in getting the pastors engaged to want to get more education about HIV/AIDS?
It's a challenge. It definitely is. I think just with different lifestyles and ways of living, and I think sometimes the personal aspect of things can kind of get in the way, but there are a lot of pastors who really want to help. They just don't necessarily know how it can be integrated with expanding that role and being more Christ-like. And I think it's one thing that we have to let our pastors know is it's still a population that still deserves to be loved, and that still needs help and still needs guidance. And I think it's really good. They were very receptive once they get in and they understand the effects and how it's affecting the Orlando area, how it's affecting the state of Florida, they are definitely more inclined to want to do something to help, and they just need a little more guidance on knowing what they can do to help. And being more prepared is one of the things that Let's Bee HIVE is doing, is actually equipping pastors and faith leaders on how to engage with individuals who are living with HIV, and understanding the language not to use that can be offensive or that can push people away and, actually experience a negative effect from the church. And so that's what we're trying to help overcome, that barrier, with our Sting and Stigma program.
One of the things that I said in a meeting today at the mayor's office, actually, we had a member show up to our staffing, and that member hadn't been there in a couple of meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And it was muted, so he didn't hear it. But we said, "Oh, look who's here." And I said, "Please don't ever do that." And I told them why. Because there's some Sundays when I was going to church on a regular basis,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't make it on Sundays. Either I was working the night before. Sometimes I'm not getting back home until 3 a.m. Sunday morning. And I would hate, no matter what church I attended, if they hadn't seen me in a couple of Sundays. Oh, don't do that.
Yes.
So what are some things that we should not say that really stigmatize this HIV agenda?
Yeah, there's a lot of stigma within the faith-based settings. And so being, women of color or people of color, a lot of, in our culture, we rely heavily on faith-based settings. And so when you are in need, where do you go? Where do you feel most comfortable going? And that is one thing that, if we want to help combat HIV and help reduce stigma, we definitely have to incorporate the faith-based setting in order to do that, in order to really reach the culture. And especially in the South, where we are in the Bible Belt, faith is a huge part that can actually help curbside. There's actually literature that supports faith initiatives that have actually improved quality of life among individuals who are living with HIV. So it's very, very important. And through our program, that's one of the things that we're doing, and we're well on our way.
Whenever you hear me on this program, and I mentioned Pastor Juanita and Pastor Rudy Rasmus in Houston, Texas, at St. John's downtown, I would really want to say that was the first time that I openly experienced the love for HIV patients and just people in the congregation, and they were treated just like everyone else. And that's where my affinity for HIV and homelessness really, really developed. You can't stop loving someone for a fingernail cut, right?
Yep.
You can't stop loving someone who may be bipolar. We sometimes do. Maybe schizophrenic. We sometimes do. Those are mental health reasons or illnesses, so to speak. We can't do that with our HIV, AIDS, relatives, friends, or whatever. Please, their quality of life and just who they are depends on us and how we respond. How can we drum it into folks, the community? We really need your support to stop stigmatizing this disease, because it's going to be here forever.
Yes, hopefully there's studies and trials still with the vaccine, and I'm hoping that we can make segue with the HIV vaccine, just as like we did with the COVID vaccine. And now there's trials to do it similarly to how the COVID vaccine was made. But we'll see how that goes. So hopefully the plan is that we can find a cure. But as of now, HIV is not going anywhere. And it's been around 30 plus years, and it's affected a lot of people's lives, a lot of families, a lot of children, women, men, everyone. No one is immune to HIV. And so that's one of the initiatives that we wanted to do, especially for women and girls, because they're often left out of those conversations. A lot of people think that HIV only affects the LGBTQ or, our gay population, and that's not true. A lot of African American women and a lot of women of color are at high risk or classified as a high risk category. And so I think that's very important for people to understand that no matter what gender, no matter what race, we're all at potential risk for HIV, but there's higher rates among the African American and Hispanic communities. You know, when we look at women, for example, in the state of Florida, we had over 21,000, there's over 21,000 women that are living with HIV in the state of Florida, and 96% contracted HIV through heterosexual contact. That is huge, you know. So it's something that we definitely have to continue to talk about and normalize these conversations, because a lot of people just may be unaware of the rates that are so high in Orlando as well as throughout the state of Florida.
So, you know what? Before we head out, I do want to talk about every year we do Let's Bee HIVE, and we do it in a grand way. And Thy Queendom Come is this year's theme, and it's coming up very soon. Let's talk about that and how people can get involved.
Yes, I'm so excited about this year's Queen Bee HIV Awareness Symposium. And the theme, Thy Queendom Come, is all about highlighting our female advocates who are dominating in the field of HIV advocacy, specifically for women and trans women. And we want to feature them so they can share their stories of advocacy and what they're doing in their communities and what others can do to learn how we can all work collectively to combat this, you know. And so how can women thrive in their own queendom? And that's what Thy Queendom Come is all about. There's some advocates who are new into the industry, starting new businesses, and are on the come up. They're doing amazing. And so that's what Thy Queendom Come is all about, is where are we going? What can we look forward to? We know where we've been, but where are we going now? And so I'm excited about this year's event. It's going to be held virtually due to COVID again, but it's okay. I really miss the live events, but the virtual events are doing really well, and we're reaching a lot more people in other places. And it's a larger reach, but it still will be virtual this year. And it's going to be held on Thursday, March 25th at 7 p.m. on our Facebook page or via Zoom. So definitely tune in and check it out. We have some great panelists this year.
So, is there an age limit?
Uh, Preferably, 13 and up, but honestly, um, this year, I think, 13. 13 is a very good age, believe it or not. It's a very young age, and parents may not think that it's important, but it is. I would say 13 and up.
One of the reasons we started this whole shebang is because what our girls are being exposed to in the streets, in school,
On
at
social media.
home. Social media is it's a big thing. It's a big thing. It's a good thing, but it can also be used in a very negative way, and it can destroy folks. So what we're trying to do is put a different spin, make information sexy again, so to speak, because the more informed you are, the less inclined you are to make poor choices when you understand what some of the results can be. One of the reasons you started Let's Bee HIVE, and let's be honest with folks, is that it started basically with you filling prescriptions, and my goodness, they were so young, and women.
Yes, believe it or not, irrespective of where I've worked, over the last it's been 12 years now since I've been in the profession of pharmacy, and no matter where I was, it's always been very high among our pediatric population, and they're actually the hardest to treat and keep them on their therapies. And so there's a lot of challenges with the pediatric population, but it's a very important thing. And it also starts in our childhood and then it transitions into adulthood. So what we teach our children is so important, and it's not a lot of organizations who are focusing heavily on the youth. And so that's one of our areas between women and youth that when I started Let's Bee HIVE and returned home and saw the devastating rates here, it was yeah, we got to do something about this. It's hard to see it, but I really wanted to get out into the community and do what I can to help reduce the rates, because HIV is preventable. It really is. So
that is the one thing that we need to keep harping. We always say sisters will be able to help each other wear their crowns, and that's what we always talk about. Thy queendom come. Our
mhm.
sisters will also be able to bring their own condoms with them to the party, just in case. You never know. I'd rather
Yes.
be safe than sorry. And through Let's Bee HIVE, you can learn how to use those condoms. You can learn different tricks. You can also, as an adult, learn ways to talk to your young girls, to your young boys as well. There's little conversation starters that Dr. Dunn will teach you in a very safe space in order to be able to keep yourself safe, keep yourself protected. So March 25th, 7 p.m. on Let's Bee HIVE's Facebook page. We're looking forward to joining you for Thy Queendom Come. And I'm looking forward to continuing to celebrate our sisterhood and our business of getting the word into the community about staying safe and communicating. All right?
Yes.
Any last minute words for our audience?
Yes, just definitely follow us on on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if there's any women who want to learn about our 100 Women Challenge, definitely follow up with us, because that's coming up. We have a 100 Women Challenge this year. We want to educate over 100 women about PrEP and actually get women on PrEP. So follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Thank you so much, Monica.
Thank you so much for always being willing to come and talk about something that is really, really a hard topic, sex and HIV. Thanks so much for joining us, Dr. Dunn, and thank you for checking us out for another edition of One Take Live. I'm Monica May.
Bomb ass tight, rack stuck up shack height, jury on me flashlight. I've been listening last night. Hit 'em with that good, make you wanna act right. Broke boys don't deserve no kitty. I know that's right. Big bag, bustin' out the Bentley band. Take a man, Balenciaga brought it back. No how I give it up. It's big bag, bustin' out the Bentley band. Take a man, working back, party back. No how I give it up. If it's up, then it's up, then it's up, then it's stuff. If it's up, then it's up, then it's up, then it's stuff. Up, then it's up. If it's up, then it's stuck. If it's up, then it's up, then it's up, then it's stuck. I can make the party hot. I can make your body rock. Haters can do nothing with me. Chances are they probably not. If I had a stick, you probably lick it like a lollipop. Shorty speaking Japanese. Hit 'em with karate chop.